Ladies and gentlemen, for our prayer this evening, let us pause and reflect on the important task before us this evening. That is to appropriate the funds necessary to deliver the services to the community. Let us do this with consideration and dispatch in a manner that will generate confidence among those who we serve. Amen. Why does the cat always go to the Finance Committee? All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you go to the Finance Committee, the handout sheet with a seal on it and look at page 5, we've done Articles 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 was postponed to be the last order of business or after Article 23. So tonight we start, and we're going to do 5, 6, 7, and 8, and we'll do those in one whack. It's moved and seconded that Articles 5, 6, 7, and 8 be indefinitely postponed. These are the articles that were to establish two enterprise funds, the solid waste and the recreation. Mr. Kleckner, on the motion for indefinite postponement.
Bring up Article 5, if you would. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, Mel Kleckner, Town Manager. It was at my initiation that these articles were inserted at the warrant. As you may recall, the town has a Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund, and it was my recommendation that the town adopt similar funds for two other operations, which are essentially pay-as-you-go operations of the town, which were the transfer station, or the solid waste operation, and the town's recreation operation. And what I wanted to do is let you know that the enterprise fund articles would eliminate the current revolving funds. We do have a revolving fund in the transfer station. It's relatively small. The revolving fund in the recreation department is very large, and in fact it encompasses 100% of the costs up to date that the recreation department has. Really the bottom line of the budget wouldn't be impacted, but it would be the manner in which the funds would be accounted for. What I believe the benefits of an enterprise fund are is to facilitate decision-making by having all the revenues and expenditures in one place. Currently, they are appropriated in different areas of the town's budget, and in my opinion, it often makes it difficult to make business decisions about those enterprises. For example, raising fees or making decisions. It is a preferred accounting method by the credit rating agencies, and it is more accountable than revolving funds. It is authorized by Mass General Law, Chapter 44. It requires a majority town meeting approval, and it must remain in place for 3 years. I think it's fair to say that these articles were the source of a lot of confusion, a lot of suspicion about what is being proposed here, and I have agreed to voluntarily withdraw them this year. I really hope to perfect that and have a lot more education and communication about them next year. I do want to say that it is, in my view, more of an accounting and financial reporting mechanism. It does not create any independent legal authority or expenditure authority. It requires identification of all costs and revenues, retains the investment and fund balance. And, but as I said, it was not intended to create any new policy, although it is true that we have been moving costs that are otherwise been borne by the general fund to the enterprises. That can continue whether we have an enterprise fund or not, and in fact, in the recreation department, we have asked them to fund their share of their costs, including, for example, the energy to power and heat the Mystic School where they are located. But we are going to withdraw these this evening. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
You ready for the question? All those in favor of indefinite postponement, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. We turn now to Article 9 to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a transfer from available funds sums of money to defray the expenses of the town for the fiscal period beginning July 1st, 2007. Ladies and gentlemen, this so-called yellow sheet, appropriately named, lists 56 motions that make up the town's appropriations for the upcoming '08 budget, which starts on July 1st. If you'll turn to the first page, up in the top left-hand corner, you'll see motions 1 and 2, which I'd like to put one at a time. Motion 1 is a motion to appropriate $2,093,106. And what that motion is, ladies and gentlemen, we had an override passed several years ago that allows us to, each year, if we choose to appropriate, at the time it was passed, it was $1,890,000, I think, and to pass that for use in the so-called Building Renovation Reconstruction Stabilization Fund. And that was in response to the public and public officials and the general public feeling that we were not spending enough money to maintain the buildings, both municipal and schools, throughout the town. Each year we have to, that number goes up by 2.5%, and we appropriate it, and it goes into a special fund, and the only way money can come out of that fund is by a 2/3 vote of the town meeting. So every year we do this, and we do it at the beginning of the appropriation session. So it's moved and seconded that the town appropriate and transfer $2,093,106 into the Building Renovation / Reconstruction Stabilization Fund. The Capital Planning Committee gives a report a little bit later under this article on the status of that fund and the appropriations and what we're going to spend this year. So on that motion number 1, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries. The second motion is moved and seconded that the town appropriate the transfer of $905,127 into the Capital Improvement Stabilization Fund. Exact same override, exact same procedure here. This time, it started out, I think it was $800,000 and change, and that's gone up over the years by 2.5%. This money goes into a similar stabilization fund, and this is for capital equipment, fire trucks, police cruisers, the town manager's car, or what have you. So that motion gets passed at the beginning, and that report you'll hear, and some appropriations out of this account later on this evening. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and motion carries. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the next group of motions are broken down just like the budget in the Finance Committee that the Finance Committee has put out, and there's 50-odd motions here, and this form very cleverly designed. You note the A, B, C, D, E, and what we do, and just as an example, in motion 3, it's moved and seconded that $499,355 be appropriated for account number 1210, Town Manager. Of that, personal services is $449,505. Other expenses is $49,750, and 0 is for equipment. That is the motion. Every motion that you're going to hear on this yellow sheet is a motion that has been made and endorsed by the Finance Committee. And in order that we can keep track of them and don't have to read the whole motion, we usually skip everything. Like on motion 4, I would read it. It's moved and seconded that $4,500 be appropriated for account 1310, Finance Committee, and put the vote and not read the details. But what this means for the individual departments in the town manager's department, if the town manager, for example, chooses not to spend the whole $449,000, he cannot use that excess money for other expenses or equipment. So you can't lay off a person and buy a computer, and vice versa. That's true for all of these except the school department, which is education, which is budget number 21, 22, and 23. And under Massachusetts law, the education department can spend that $29,814,937 all on personal services if they would to choose to. They obviously wouldn't, but they could, and they can move it around, or at least we like to think that they wouldn't. And before I turn it over to the Finance Committee, who will introduce this group of motions, I do have one correction on this page, and it's under motion number 21 and 22. The motion on the yellow sheet incorrectly has the numbers. The total of motions 21 and 22 are the same, but the numbers should read as follows. Instead of 29,814,937, that should read 29,837,410. And the motion 22 should read 194,974. Is that correct? The Finance Committee handed me that correction just at the beginning of the meeting. Okay, are there any questions on that correction? Hearing none, the Chair recognizes Chris Linsky, the Chairman of the Finance Committee. Remember, these all motions that you're going to hear are the Finance Committee's motion, and anybody on the floor or a member of town government can move to amend by increasing or decreasing those motions. Mr. Linsky, on motion number 3 and general comments.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, town meeting members, fellow boards, and other committees. The Finance Committee would like to just start by reminding town meeting members of the big three: growth, spending, and long-range planning. This budget includes 4.6% growth. The town, I remind you again, must plan to achieve reasonable and sustainable levels of growth each year. We need to curb spending, particularly in certain key areas. The town must rein in spending so it can meet its needs from its reliable revenue sources. In long-range planning, the town must generate multi-year plans, and despite our override this year and additional state aid, we do face at least a $1.3 million to $2 million shortfall next year. Please note that the differences between the town manager's budget and the Finance Committee's recommendations can be found in the cover letter of the Finance Committee recommendations booklet. I will, however, point out to you in general, the Finance Committee added the additional state aid. The Finance Committee budget does not use the General Stabilization Fund. When the enterprise proposals were withdrawn from the Finance Committee voted to add the Recreation Department costs and energy and insurance back into the general fund. The Recreation Committee will reimburse the town for these expenses. And the Finance Committee reduced the energy budget by an additional $217,000 compared to the town manager's budget. And at this point, I'd like to recognize the contributions of the Energy Committee, the DPW, the schools, and all the employees involved in the efforts to reduce the town's energy use, including the use of capital investments to reduce the energy costs. I'll remind you that in the fall, I stood here at this podium telling you that the energy budget would grow by almost $600,000, or 22% over last year. This budget now includes a year-over-year reduction in energy costs of $100,000, an actual reduction of 5% in energy. So very good work by that team. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there are several amendments on the first group of articles called General Government 3 through 11. And let me just explain what I think is happening. I received these today. Under the town manager's budget, 1210, they're going to reduce that by $5,794, and we'll have a motion to this effect. And the same thing under the town clerk's 1610, they're going to take out $5,794 with your permission, and then they're going to add that total, which is $11,588, to the collector treasurer. And the motion that we have under consideration now is motion number 3, and it's moved and seconded that $499,255 is appropriated for account 1210, the town manager. And who's going to make that amendment? Mr. Kleckner?
Mr. Moderator, it's moved and seconded that personal services under Budget 1210 Town Manager be reduced by the sum of $5,794, so that the total appropriation is $493,461, of which $443,711 is for personal services and $49,750 is for other expenses.
Maybe you could explain the
Yes,
logic.
Mr. Moderator, may I discuss each of those three budget amendments?
Altogether, you can discuss
Which
it,
really
please.
comprise a plan. When the town and myself and the Board of Selectmen were engaged over the budget, we were discussing what could be restored in the event of a successful override. And we ended up resolving that there would be money restored to the town manager and town clerk's office to avert reductions in force, reductions in staffing. But there was a position left over, reduced in the treasurer collector's department. And in the ensuing weeks, it was clear that in both the town managers and the treasurer's, in both the town managers and the town clerk's office, there are clerks who have had changes in their lifestyle with their families and are interested in a reduced work schedule. Now, that would be difficult in those departments, but given the fact that those two particular individuals are experienced people, they've had a lot of training, we don't want to lose them. So what I've proposed to the Board of Selectmen, and they've concurred with these motions, is that we do reduce the funding in the town manager and town clerk's office and absorb those reductions in staffing in the schedule, which are voluntary, and replace the funding in the treasurer's office so that there is no involuntary staffing or layoff reduction. The treasurer collector's office is a very busy office and is involved in a lot of the town's funds, collecting those funds, and is responsible for timely investment of those funds. So it's something that I strongly recommended. The Board of Selectmen, my understanding, the Finance Committee supports that. And so just to recap again, there would be an equal reduction in the town manager and town clerk's office of $5,794 each, and that money would then be allocated to the town treasurer's office in the sum of $11,588. Thank you.
Okay, is the Finance Committee in agreement with that amendment? You will recommend it? Yeah.
Yes, the Finance Committee recommends favorable action on the amendment.
Can't hear you. If you pull that mic down, there you go.
The overall municipal budget doesn't change, and we're generally supportive of the town manager's efforts to keep trained employees and to suit their schedules as well as maintain the budget. Thank you.
Okay, the question comes on the motion to amend by reducing the total by $5,794. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. It's moved and seconded that the main motion as amended for account 1210 in the amount of $493,461 be approved. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Motion number 4, $4,500 for account 1310, Finance Committee. All of these have recommendations of the Finance Committee. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. 5, $277,542 for 1330, the Comptroller. All those in favor, please say aye. Yes, sir. I beg your pardon? I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon? What? I'm on, I just finished Article 5. I'm now going to Article 6. Motion 6. Oh, I beg your pardon. I did the Comptroller. I just read the Comptroller, which is Article 5. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Motion number 6, to appropriate $231,327 for account 1340, Assessors. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries. Motion number 7 for $206,287 for account 1350 collector treasurer. And it's moved and seconded by the town manager that personal services be increased by $11,588. This is the thing that Mel just spoke on. Did you have something else? It's not necessary if you...
No, I did put the motion on a slide, so let me just
Sure.
put that on the board if I could. Never mind.
Okay, on the question of increasing the personal services by $11,588, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Swanton. No, the first motion is 5074 under Article 3. There'll be another motion on 5794 on 1610.
Sorry.
The ex-finance committee people trying, but unsuccessfully. Yeah. Okay, that brings us to motion number 8. And it's moved and seconded that $558,802 be appropriated for account 1410, Planning and Community Development. Yes, sir. Mr. Freisel. I think you're correct. I'll take care of that. Mr. Swanton interrupted me in the middle of my vote. So on the motion number 8, $558,802, 1410, the planning and community development. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Back on motion number 7, it's moved and seconded that the main motion as amended in the amount of $217,875 be approved. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Motion number 9, $54,200 for the planning board, account 1400. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. Motion number 10, $95,000 for general services, account 1540. General services. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Motion number 11, it's moved and seconded that $278,248 be appropriated for account 1610 town clerk. Mr. Kleckner moves that the personal services in this account be reduced by the sum of $5,794. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. It's moved and seconded that motion number 11, as amended in the amount of $272,454, be approved for account 1610, the town clerk. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. I don't have any other amendments, ladies and gentlemen, on this page, so I'll just continue. Please interrupt if you have any questions or want to make any comments on any of these budgets. 12 and 13 both have recommendations, obviously, of the Finance Committee. The first, the library. It's moved and seconded that $1,488,767 be appropriated for account 6110, the library. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Motion 13, 1300, the town's archival center. It's moved and seconded that $1,300 be appropriated for account 6940, the archival center. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. Health and Social Services, the Board of Health. Yes, sir. Mr. Cullen.
Yes, thank you. A question for you, Mr. Moderator. It would seem to me that under Culture and Recreation, we might see the Recreation Department. I realize that it was proposed to be an enterprise fund, but that got withdrawn. But I don't see any place here where the Recreation Department is covered.
Yes, sir. The gentleman points out that the recreation, I think, and I'll yield to the town controller, but I believe that the recreation department for years now has not been budgeted because it is a revolving fund that is 100% self-supporting. So when we have the revolving account renewal here in a later article, it does not appear in the budget. Is that correct, Mr. Bonner?
That's correct, Mr. Moderator. The main revolving account is not to be voted on by town meeting because it was authorized by Mass General Law 20-some odd years ago. So therefore, there's no annual reauthorization by town meeting. The revolving fund that supports the permanent staff is authorized by a different section of the law and does require annual approval by town meeting.
Okay, Mr. Bonner points out that under state law, the recreation does not require approval of town meeting with the exception of the recreation staff, which is in fact funded through the revolving account from the money raised for fees, and that does require approval of the town meeting, and that will be the subject of an article later on outside the main operating budget. Does that answer your question, sir? Thank you. Okay, on the health and social services, it's Article Motion 14. It's moved and seconded that $160,793 be appropriated for account 5110 Board of Health. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Motion carries. 15, Council on Aging, $211,790. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Motion carries. Veteran Services, number 16, $23,409. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Motion carries. Public Safety, 17. It's moved and seconded that $3,585,932 be appropriated for account 2110 Police Department. Any questions? All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Motion carries. Not a lot of enthusiasm for the police department tonight. 18, they'll probably be towing the cars. The 18, or mine, it's moved and seconded that $3,597,568 be appropriated for account 2210, the fire department. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Motion carries. 19, the weights and measures. It's moved and seconded that $8,176 be appropriated for account 2420, weights and measures. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Motion carries. Department of Public Works. It's moved and seconded that $4,631,098 is appropriated for account 4100, the Department of Public Works. Yes, sir. Way up back.
Hi, Repute, Precinct 7. Last year, Mr. Grant came up and talked about the fact that he was going to look into possibly outsourcing some of the town services, maintenance services. He actually said that we hadn't looked into it in the past. I decided actually not to rise at that time, but in fact, they had looked into it in the past and had sent out RFPs. And I'd be curious to see what the department situation was on this now, and had they looked into any further cost cutting.
Thank you very much. The question Mr. Kleckner will answer is the gentleman raises the point that the town, Mr. Grant was down and was talking about outsourcing some services. Yes, sir.
Mr. Moderator, on behalf of Mr. Grant, there is, in fact, some outsourcing.
Excuse me, just one second, Mr. Kleckner. Do you have a point of order or something bothering you?
Just a question, Mr. Moderator.
Well, we have a speaker on. Is it a point of information?
It's a point of parliamentary procedure, I guess.
All right.
Under public safety, where there's special funds, funding sources, are they supposed to be mentioned as part of the article?
They're part of the motion there. Under special planning source, the motion under public safety is $3,585,932, of which $3,409,907 is for personal services, $139,225 is for other expenses, $36,800 is for equipment, and of that, $70,000 is from the parking meter fund. That's the motion.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Mr. Kleckner.
Thank you. As I was saying, in this budget, there is in fact an effort to outsource a function of the department. I will say somewhat reluctantly, because when you do outsource and you reduce the personnel, that personnel is not there all year round to help with some of the emergencies that the Public Works Department faces, especially snow and ice removal and the flooding, which the Public Works does respond to. But in the effort to innovate and to moderate the amount of funds that was going to be sought from the override, there were a number of reductions that were made. And one, in this particular department, we eliminated 2 positions in the maintenance department, and will be contracting for a private vendor to mow various properties and parks and otherwise maintain those fields and properties of the town.
That answer your question, sir? Okay, further on the question. Yes, sir, in the baseball hat with the green shirt.
Mr. Moderator, if I could ask, through you to the town meeting manager, have you seen any sort of significant savings that sort of warrant outsourcing that, or is this sort of a necessity because of a deficit in the budget?
Gentleman's question is, have you seen any benefit to outsourcing, or is this done just because you had no choice because of the budget?
Well, I think it's fair to say that if there were no budget constraints, I would prefer not to outsource this particular function. But I will say that there has been an experiment in the cemetery department. It's been going on for a few years now, where the grounds are outsourced, and we are maintaining those grounds through a private contractor, and the experience has been good. Now, I will say that there is a cost to doing that, and the cost when you eliminate personnel in a department like the Public Works, you do suffer year-round having that capacity for any employee to jump in a plow and plow, because otherwise it costs a lot of money to contract for that. But the fact of the matter is that we do like the way the cemetery looks. We think it's been a reasonably successful venture, and that's why this particular maintenance operation was targeted.
Thank you, sir. Further on the question on Department of Public Works, let me read that motion again. It's moved and seconded that $4,631,098 is appropriated for account 4100 Department of Public Works. $3,124,918 is for personal services. 1473780 for other expenses. $32,400 for equipment, of which $100,000 is from the Cemetery Permanent Care Fund. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Next one is education, motion number 21. It's moved and seconded that $29,837,410 be appropriated for account 3110 education. And the chair recognizes, I believe, Mrs. Schweiger and anybody else who cares to come down on the education budget. Mrs. Schweiger, congratulations on your appointment as chairperson of the Winchester School Committee.
All righty, thank you. All right, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Moderator, town meeting members. This evening, the school committee would like to ask for your approval of the Finance Committee's recommendation of $30,196,212 for the school budget. Our presentation includes an overview of the budget development process, our budget framework, a brief perspective on increasing enrollment, and what the funds will accomplish for quality education in Winchester. In August, the superintendent and administration have a 2-day meeting where they work on the strategic plan. They review and develop the priorities and objectives that meet the educational and administrative needs of the students and the district. In September, the superintendent and school committee discuss the plan and agree on the major goals for the school year. This year, there are 4 strategic goals that the district has been working on. 1, curriculum coordination. We have completed curriculum reviews in math and science. 2, acquiring and using technology as an educational and administrative tool. 3, improving teaching through professional development that expands teacher capacity to reach all children through differentiated instruction. And 4, improving learning through consistency of curriculum, courses, and setting high expectations. In October, we look at the current enrollment and begin our projection for the following year. To put it in perspective, since ed reform in '93, Winchester's enrollment has increased by almost 1,200 students. Together, the goals and the enrollment are where we begin to build the budget. In late October and November, the superintendent presents the first preliminary budget to the school committee. Out of this discussion, we agree on the FY08 budget priorities. This year, there are 3. We maintain the current educational program with the anticipated enrollment increase. We meet our current financial obligations. We will be in the 2nd year of a teacher's contract. And 3, we meet state and federal mandates, including No Child Left Behind, time and learning requirements, ed reform, and special education. This hopefully now familiar slide illustrates the model we have developed to work with our budget. The box at the bottom shows what it will cost to run the educational base next year. There we go. This box down here is the base. In the special education cost, the number includes the out-of-district placements and special education transportation, but it does not include district personnel. The box in the middle covers our existing staff and their raises, and the 3rd box covers equipment, material, and supplies. This is a 4.5 increase. The 2nd box shows the impact of the enrollment increase of 107 students anticipated next year. This number is weighted at 75% of our per pupil cost, since we do not add additional central administrators, nurse, secretaries, or principals, or support staff. This is a 2.1% increase. The column on the right shows the funding request and where the funds are coming from. The lower part is the town manager's initial recommendation of a 3% increase. The 2nd box represents the $1 million override, and the 3rd box, $311,000 from increased Chapter 70 state aid. Together, the amount of the recommendation from the Finance Committee is the appropriation requested tonight. Although this is about $140 less than our original request, we will be able to return to the school budget the staff that was hired through the Promise Fund. In an important way, this is a transition budget. This year, all personnel will be covered by public funds. The school committee has asked the Winchester Foundation for Educational Excellence if they will continue to seek funds to help with technology and professional development. The school committee would like to thank the Winchester Foundation for working so closely with the school committee to initiate the Promise Fund, and to all the volunteers and donors who spent so many hours and generously donated to help us hire the necessary teachers for the increasing enrollment of the past 2 years. Stand for Children has and continues to make a big difference at the State House through their lobbying efforts to increase reliable funding for the state for education. The Board of Selectmen has supported a thorough budget process and pressed for clarity and efficiencies. And the Finance Committee has invested a great deal of time and thought and review of our budget plan. Support from these groups has made for a careful and iterative budget development process. We would like to send our deep appreciation to the voters and residents who supported this year's override. We know it is difficult to raise your own taxes, and we will work even harder to seek areas to control cost that don't have a negative impact on our students. Mr. Moderator, the superintendent will describe what this appropriation will provide for the students of Winchester next year.
Thank you very much. Dr. Marini.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, and town meeting members. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Thank you. I want to just reiterate a couple of things that Mrs. Swiger has had to say regarding the development of the budget. And as the school department, we too want to thank the community for supporting the override. We know it's not an easy decision, and we want you to know that we in the schools do not take that vote for granted. We recognize and appreciate the hard work done by the town boards and town officials to figure out what is in fact a complex and difficult task of developing a budget that is supported by the community and keeps our schools strong and vibrant for the next generation of Winchester students. And as you've seen through Mrs. Swiger's presentation, this budget allows us to maintain our current programs and include teachers with growing enrollment, but include those teachers without relying on private donations. All of our staff, if this budget is approved, will be in the operating budget. That is just spectacular, because if that happens, then I can report that the Promise Fund has indeed served its purpose. This fund was instrumental in helping Winchester to not only avoid deep cuts in the schools and all the turmoil that comes along with that, but more important, without question, this fund single-handedly maintained the quality of education for students during a most uncertain time, and for that, we are enormously grateful. Yikes. Yikes. Okay, I got it. I think I have it. I'm a little quick on the trigger there. We have very simple goals for this budget. Very, very simple goals. We're not building a lot of initiatives. We're not expanding the budget to try different educational programs. That was not what we're about. We want to keep our current programs, including those teachers, and put them in the operating budget. We want to pay our bills, and we want to meet state mandates. Okay. What this budget will do, if this budget passes, we will have sufficient funds in the budget to maintain our current support staff, those people behind the scenes that, quite frankly, make the trains run. We will have enough money to buy teaching supplies and materials needed for the classroom. We will continue to build the heart and soul of a school system. We will continue to build high quality and well-coordinated curriculum, the math and science reviews, for example. And we include teachers in the base budget. That include teachers for reading, for special education, for our ELL students, and for the increasing enrollment, all in the base budget. We'll pay our bills and we'll meet our mandates. Beyond FY08 and beyond, we had those simple goals moving into this budget. And it's important, however, that I take a moment to remind everyone that while we think we're going to begin in September in very good shape, over the last few years, enrollment increases have allowed or caused class size to creep up across the system. We have to keep that in mind because enrollment is a driver for the budget. If you look at the elementary schools, as we enter elementary school next year, nearly more than 40%, 40 classes out of nearly 100 in the elementary school will be larger than class size guidelines, even with the approval of this budget. At the middle school, we have fully 1/3 of our classes on the team subjects, English, math, science, history, are over 25 students in a class. At the high school level, fully 1/3 of all classes in the 5 large academic areas, English, math, science, history, and foreign language, will be over 25, some into the 30s. This budget will help us tremendously in trying to mitigate that, especially at the 30s. But it's important to remember that our enrollment continues to grow, and we will have large class sizes. So this is not a budget that's going to, that is overly done and that brings us to a place that's out of line. In fact, these are challenges for us. However, as we open schools September 2007, as the Winchester Public Schools open, we can say there is public funding for public schools. That is fantastic. We can say that we have adequate funding to maintain our current programs, meet our obligations, pay all our bills. The morale in all of the schools is sky high. I met with the teachers today. Today is Teacher Appreciation Day. I met with all of the teachers. I explained the budget to them and all of what goes along with it, and they were ecstatic. This allows us to take our energy and focus on where it ought to be. We need to focus on teaching and learning, curriculum, and students. We're focusing on education next year. And I can say with 100% confidence that the teachers, the staff, the administrators in the Winchester Public Schools are dedicated to providing the highest quality education for all of our students. And they are committed, totally committed, to working as hard as they can to have the best possible school system, period. I hope this budget passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
How do I close this?
Further on the question on the education budget. Are there any questions? You ready for the question? Question comes on the motion to appropriate $29,837,410 for account 3110 education. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. Motion 22, $217,000 was $217. It's now $194,974 for account 3210 athletics. That's the one that had a typo of major significance. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Motion 23, the vocational school 3610 in the amount of $163,828. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Motion 24, energy. It's moved and seconded that $2,683,000 be appropriated for account 1910 energy. Any discussion? All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Trash disposal 25, $821,700 for account 1810 trash disposal. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. 26, account 75,000, audit, account 1360. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. 1510, legal, motion 27. It's moved and seconded that $300,000 be appropriated for account 1510. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. 28, $358,214 for account 1530 data processing. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Next one is 29, funded debt, $5,864,220, appropriated for account 7110 funded debt, of which $5,864,220 is for other expenses, of which $800,800 is from the Building Stabilization Fund and $27,000 from the Capital Stabilization Fund. In this case, ladies and gentlemen, our two override stabilization funds are paying the funded debt cost on prior purchases. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. The next motion is for the interest on that debt, and it's moved and seconded that $2,095,844,000 be appropriated for account 7120 interest on debt, of which $678,840 is from the Building Stabilization Fund and $18,328 is from the Capital Stabilization Fund. All those.
Because the money's from, some of the money is the stabilization fund.
Yes, that's correct. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I had the policeman coming in on the other side here. Thought it was a security matter, but if you have a Toyota RAV4 Gray 1795 WS, your lights are on. Okay, we need some tellers. Mr. Deering, would you be a teller? And Mr. Moore, Mr. Giller, and who have I got over here? Mr. Norberg, would you, Mr. Nowell, would you be a teller for me, please? Ladies and gentlemen, on account number 29, if we have a unanimous vote, we don't need to do it. This is on motion 29, $5,864,220 for 7110 funded debt. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the chair declares that it's unanimous. 30, interest on funded debt, $2,095,844, of which $678,840 is from the Building Stabilization Fund and $18,328 is from the Capital Stabilization Fund. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. It's unanimous. Thank you very much, Mr. Latta. That brings us, and I'll swear the tellers in when we need you. The next one is account 31, $25,200, and that's for account 7140, tax abatement and interest on bank fees. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Contributory retirement, 9110, motion 32, in the amount of $2,823,840. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Workers' comp, motion 33. Moved and seconded that $397,306 be appropriated for account 9120, workers' comp indemnification. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Unemployment compensation in the amount of $100,000 in motion 34, account number 9130. All those in favor, please say aye. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Can we get an explanation why we're increasing that from by $90,000? The FY07 was, or actually the money used in FY06 was $11,920, and the budget for 07 was $100,000, and 08 is $100,000. We get a projected cost of what 07 is going to be and why we're increasing it so much.
Yeah, and you're talking about account 9130?
9130, yes.
Okay. Mr. Kleckner, on why we're increasing the appropriation so much, and that's 9130 unemployment compensation. It's $100,000 this year. And ladies and gentlemen, that's included, if you want to look at a write-up, on page 104 in your Finance Committee book.
Mr. Chairman, it's my understanding that actually the appropriation is being reduced from the current year, but let me just get there.
I believe it's page 104, Mr. Kleckner.
Okay, I'm in a little different book here, so bear with me for one moment, please.
Fiscal...
Yes, the fiscal year '07 budget was $157,000, and the Finance Committee is recommending a sum that's $57,000 less. But I think the question is an appropriate one. That money, the $157,000, was appropriated when the town had not passed its override a couple of years ago. There was some question about whether the promised fund would be necessary to support the school personnel, and there was some fear that there would be expenses associated with layoffs. That did not occur, fortunately, as Dr. Marini mentioned, helping thanks to the Promise Fund. And so we have reduced that amount, but it is true that the the experience for the unemployment compensation has been less. The expenses for unemployment compensation are primarily driven by the school department. The school department has, education reform has allowed the school department to have a lot more control over the tenure of new teachers and personnel. And so that's where most of the costs are. And I guess I would have to ask if there's some questions about the projection of unemployment compensation in the school department, if the school department might be able to answer that, because I really don't have any response to that. I was comfortable reducing it to $100,000. Perhaps it's more than is needed, but I really can't answer that specifically.
Maybe might shed a little light on it. Do we have the amount of money that has been expended in workers' compensation this year? The amount of money expended in workers' compensation, sir, I thought that might help, is, did you say 20? Approximately $20,000 has been expended so far this year. Yes, sir, on a follow-up.
So why are FY06 was 11,920. FY06 was 11,920. Great that you're reducing it by 57,000 to 100,000, but if you're only spending 20,000 for FY07, why are we allocating this money, and what are we going to do with it if we don't spend it?
All right, sir. That's, first of all, if it's not spent, I'll answer that one. If it's not spent and we appropriate it, it'll return to free cash at the end of 08. Chris?
The actual expenditure in '06 was $12,000, but I would also point out that in '05 it was $114. In '04 it was $96,000. So the committee felt as though if we left $100 in there, we'd be covered for what we've historically experienced, as well as there is a couple of layoffs required by the budget for the positions that were not restored as a result of the override.
That answer your question, sir? Thank you very much. So the question comes on account 9130, unemployment compensation in the amount of $100,000. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carried. Motion 35. It's moved and seconded that $7,994,078 be appropriated for account 9140, health insurance. Yes, sir. Way up back. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Moderator, through you to the town manager, we've heard in previous town meetings that there's been work with the Joint Committee on possible changes in the health insurance program, and I'm wondering if we could get an update on those activities.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, the question related to efforts to reform health insurance, employee health insurance for employees of the town and school, and there has been a lot of activity. 2 years ago, the contracts, and now the school teacher's contract that you approved this past fall, did increase the percentage contribution that is paid by all of our employees for health insurance. And that was a very difficult and contentious discussion with the unions, but the town was insistent that that at least be a first step. We have decided that although that would save us money if we continued to try to shift the cost in that manner, that's probably not the best course of action. And so the current strategy is to try to affect the schedule of benefits and try to consolidate our vendor pool. Right now we have two of the large insurers covering the town, Blue Cross Blue Shield and Harvard Pilgrim. What our intent has been, and we've actually gone out and solicited proposals for a unified plan with one of those plans. We've also asked Tufts Healthcare to participate. And we are now in the process, in addition to going out to get those bids to consolidate the vendor pool, we're also looking at some modifications of the benefit design, primarily in deductibles and co-payments and the like. And we're currently engaged with the Insurance Advisory Committee, which is a advisory body that's comprised of town employees and retirees. But I think it's very important that you all know that any major change in health insurance must be bargained to agreement with the unions. And that's a very difficult thing. We are actually optimistic. We've had some very good discussions with the Insurance Advisory Committee. There's going to be some tough negotiations that are going on. That's why you'll later hear under Article 14 why we've only agreed with our unions for 1 year, actually the year that expires at the end of June of this year. Because health insurance is so important to us to get this reform that we're committed not to reach another agreement without substantial reform. So that's hopefully an update on that situation. Thank you.
Yes, sir, way up back.
Wasn't there some deal with a statewide public employees health plan, whatever? Where does that stand? Whatever happened with that?
Yes, the question was, is there an opportunity for the town and all cities and towns of the Commonwealth to join in to the state's Group Insurance Commission? The Group Insurance Commission is the entity that insures thousands and thousands of state employees and retirees. That hasn't been enacted into law yet. It's part of the so-called municipal reform package that the governor has submitted. We're hopeful, but I'll be honest, and if you've read some material, it's been in the news quite a bit lately, the current package requires approval of the unions in order to do so. And that's dubious as to whether that we could achieve that or whether the cost of negotiating that would be worth it to the town. But we're definitely exploring it, but currently it's not a law. The thought there, I would say 10 years ago, I would say we'd never join the Group Insurance Commission, but in fact, the Group Insurance Commission has really done well. They've performed very well, and the rate of increase that the Group Insurance Commission has experienced is roughly double, or I should say 1/2 the rate that on average cities and towns have experienced in the increases in health insurance premiums. So we're very interested, but at the current time, number one, it's not law. Number two, when it becomes law, we think it will require the consent of the unions to join.
Yes, sir, in the baseball hat again.
Mr. Moderator, through you, Mr. Kleckner. What do you believe, you mentioned about negotiating with the unions and the cost. Is the percentage of the contribution the crux of the cost, or is it the variety which we offer the members of the policy the cost, or is it something else that contributes to either the negotiation or the cost of the increase in the cost?
Well, it's all of the above there, but mostly it's the latter. We are interested in not necessarily shifting the premium contributions. We're more interested in affecting the plan design and achieving savings through consolidating our vendor pool. That's not an easy task because we have, as I mentioned before, we have the Harvard Pilgrim plan and we have the Blue Cross plan. Both of those are at different percentage contributions rates. So there's going to have to be, if we decide to go with one or the other, we're going to have to do some negotiation over the rates or the contribution rates. But the major issue is really the plan design and the vendor.
Way up back, and then Mr. Burkott.
Hi, Mr. Moderator, to you through either the Financial Committee or to Mr. Kleckner. I'm very disappointed to hear that part was actually taken off the table, because I believe last year, if not 2 years ago, there were people here talking about how our contribution rate was significantly less than other towns around us, not to mention the extreme deficit compared to private industry. So does anyone have the numbers as to where we are on our contributions? Because I believe some people got up from the Financial Committee saying that people were actually changing and their spouses who worked elsewhere were now coming onto our plan because it was so beneficial. And I think it's very disappointing to hear that that's actually been taken off the table before negotiation even starts.
Mr. Kleckner.
Well, I want to be clear that nothing's off the table. We won't negotiate, we will negotiate, but we are insistent on getting reform before we sign another agreement. I believe that as I mentioned before, 2 years ago, we did negotiate an increase in the employee contribution. Is it enough? I'm not sure. I will tell you that based on the experience of a benchmarking study that we had done for the town, we are actually above average, actually. And when I say that above average, I mean our contribution rates, the town's contribution rates, are less on average than our peers. Now, that's not to say that private industry, we are still generally a little more richer than the private industry. That's a fact. But nothing is off the table.
Ms. Burkhardt was next, and then Mr. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. To the appropriate party, could you tell us what the percentage of contribution is, and if it varies from union to union, just give us a summary, and I have a follow-up.
On average, it's about 71%, but let me try to, if I can. I believe that there is, I know I'm going to get it wrong, so why don't I just take a moment and refer to the paperwork, and then I'll come back with an answer. But on average, the town pays 70 to 75% of the contribution.
Ms. Burkhardt, on a follow-up.
That's fine. I don't need the specifics, but I think prior speakers have flagged the fact that an employee contribution of 25 to 30%, more or less, is very significantly under what the market is in many other universes or in many other demographics. And I would also suggest going forward, it is, in my judgment, not a good idea as a negotiating tactic to advise the parties with whom you're negotiating. And I recognize the collegiality we want to maintain. I recognize the value of a workforce. But all one has to do is look at some of the big American manufacturing industries, and you can see what happens when you don't address the ballooning cost of benefits. And I don't think it would serve the town well at all to say in advance of a discussion that we are not going to consider, or we're going to put most of our efforts into vendor consolidation or having one provider or any of those other issues, which are helpful. But typically a negotiation covers a lot of ground. And I think the town in the past has not had, I will choose my words carefully here, but perhaps the spine that you need to have in those matters. You need to look at the parties across the table and have everybody recognize that the budget is limited, and that every dollar that we continue to subsidize a benefit schedule that is very significantly more generous than other universes is a dollar that we do not have for a variety of uses of whatever department. And I think the town really needs to consider its approach in those discussions. I think the town needs to have a very comprehensive recognition of what its minimal position will be with regard to those discussions, because the budget costs of the benefit programs that we pay for will break us if we don't come to some terms with those numbers. And I would urge everybody to give that some thought.
Thank you, Ms. Burkhardt. Mr. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I have, during the last year, been assisting the town manager in the meetings with the Insurance Advisory Committee. The people from the town unions who have participated in those meetings have done so openly and with an acknowledgement that they too understand that we need to come to some change with respect to health insurance in Winchester. Notably, the contributions from employees in Winchester, which range from a high of 29% down to 15%, depending on the particular plan in which the employees are enrolled, are in fact a much greater percentage contribution from the employees than most other municipalities in the surrounding region. In fact, in some instances, we have difficulty attracting certain employees in some public safety departments because our contributions are much higher than they are in other towns. Also, notably, Kaiser does an annual study of percentage contributions in businesses throughout the United States for employers who employ more than 200 people, and the town of Winchester employs approximately 663 people, including the retirees, about 351 people. We have just over 1,000 people who are providing health insurance for. Those contribution rates are in fact pretty much in line with what is happening in large corporations throughout the United States in terms of contributions made by those employers. Where we are out of line, as the town manager noted, is in plan design. And the thing that we have been focusing on is how can we design a plan which is more efficient and more effective for the town, yet doesn't diminish the quality of health insurance and the quality of care available to our employees. In looking at that, we have looked at various proposals, including one which is put together by a group of Massachusetts municipalities, 109 cities and towns, and we've decided that we need to do two things. One, consolidate our vendors, and also look at higher deductibles, higher contributions, and potentially the town's agreement to fund hospital deductibles in a way in which the hospital deductible would become something substantial, like $1,000, yet the town would set aside a sinking fund to fund that for individual employees. In that way, plan design, we can get to a program which will realize substantial gains. The Community Partnership Act, which makes the GIC plan, would be nice if it mandated that all employees had to join the GIC, but it does not. It simply presents one more opportunity for negotiation. We have not achieved the results we would have liked to in the last year, but I believe that we now have identified a potential solution, and we are on our way towards working to that with the town employees.
Further on the question? Yes, sir, right here, and then Mr. Parkhurst.
I have two questions. In the red book, I wanted to ask you, ask the Finance Committee through you, Mr. Speaker, why the Finance Committee recommendation is about $160,000 more than the request and the town manager's number, and secondly, why the number on the yellow sheet is even higher than that. On the yellow sheet, the number is 7994, and in the red budget book, it's 7940.
Okay, let me.
And why is that higher than the request?
If the gentleman points out that the Finance Committee's main motion is for $7,994,000, and in the book on page 104, the recommendation is 7940 as opposed to 7994. He asked why that is larger than your Finance Committee report. And the second question is why you increased it above Mr. Kleckner's recommendation.
The basic answer is it's a timing difference. Mel delivers the budget to the Finance Committee in February, and what we have until now is more opportunity to bring in more information. Three pieces of information that came in later is there's a latest insurance quote that we received, which we increased the estimate by about $100,000. Then we added to that additional $70,000 for cost of new school employees as a result of the override as well as the additional state aid. And finally, there was additional piece. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. When we added back the enterprise accounts, we brought in the recreation department and the insurance related to those people into the main budget, the general budget, and then the rec department will actually pay the town for that.
That answer your question, sir? Do we have somebody else? Mr. Parkhurst, I'm sorry, I missed you. We have a microphone here? Here we go. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Moderator, just to follow up on what Mr. Haley said.
Thank you, sir.
And he alluded to it. The question I have is about insuring the retirees. Now, if there are 350 of the 1,000, that's 35% of the whole total is going for retirees. It would also affect the plan design because, I mean, those are the individuals, I'm sure, who need the health insurance the most. And at some point in time, I would think they'd be eligible for Medicare or Medicaid or the supplemental insurance and whatever. So I would like that question answered. And is insuring the retirees a matter of a collective bargaining also?
Mr. Kleckner, on whether or not the insuring of retirees is a matter of collective bargaining.
The answer to that question is no. It is not subject to collective bargaining. This town meeting years ago had accepted a provision of state law that requires the town to cover our retirees. However, the other question is related to Medicare. The town has also adopted a provision that since we are covering our retirees, that if they are Medicare eligible, they must join Medicare and have Medicare serve as their primary insurer, and then the town picks up the cost of the supplemental plan, which I should also mention that a couple of years ago, the Board of Selectmen mandated that new employees pay 50% of that contribution. That could be done because we didn't have to bargain with the retirees, frankly.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I have a question, and I believe it might be directed towards Mr. Kleckner. How many people are we paying benefits to that are part-time employees, and do you see that with some of the budget constraints either increasing or decreasing? And of that maybe number or percentage, how many of them maybe have a spouse or somebody else riding along with that? And like I said, with the budget constraint, do you expect that number to increase, and is this something that we forecast for?
The question relative to part-time employees. Again, here's a provision of state law. You'll see that health insurance for municipal employees is a benefit that's governed by state law, and we have a lot of restrictions, not only the collective bargaining that's been mentioned, but other state laws. And state law mandates that if an employee works 20 or more hours per week regularly, they must be provided this 100% the same health insurance benefits. Now, we're very aware of that, and I think the answer to the question is you'll see that decreasing. The town is aware that that's a disproportionate benefit, it seems to me to be. And when we make budgetary decisions and employment decisions, we're more often hiring people less than 20 hours. I know the school department does the same. It's too bad that there is that restriction and we have to make those kind of artificial decisions, but that's the state law and that's what we're faced with. The question about how many employees have a family plan as opposed to individual, my guess it's probably 75-25 roughly, that employees have a family plan. I don't think that's anything unique about the way the town is. I think it just reflects our workforce, which is probably consistent with other employers like that.
Further on the question. Are you ready for the question, ladies and gentlemen? The question comes on the appropriation of $7,994,078 for account 9140 health insurance. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and the motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could, I'd like to make just a couple of comments on health insurance and share with you what I think is the biggest problem that we're going to be facing is we just finished discussing, in a very good discussion I think it was. I had the opportunity to go from one end of the state to the other during this past 12 months. And I'm back here. But one of the things that I spent the most time on, and I would be willing to bet it was probably 30 or 40%, was on the issue of health care. Didn't make any difference whether I was in Groton, Springfield, Worcester, Lowell, how big or how small, that was always a discussion. And I looked at every option that there was, and I look at the legislation that's proposed, and in my opinion, there is only one real answer other than health care reform nationally, which isn't going to happen before we run out of money here in towns like Winchester or Groton or wherever you are. And we have a unique opportunity here. We have, as Mel Kleckner pointed out, the state insurance group that has done remarkably well in offering a plan that is significantly cheaper, significantly cheaper than you can offer in Winchester. We only insure 500 or 600 people, and if somebody insures 50,000, you get better rates and you have better control over the plan. So the economics from a business standpoint are there. The legislature needs to have 359 cities and towns hold the state legislature's feet to the fire in coming up with the legislation that will allow towns like Winchester and cities like Lowell and Worcester to join that plan. You join that plan, two things happen. As Peter Haley said, the importance is maybe the plan itself. Maybe we have too many plans. Maybe they're not suited for retired and what have you. The state has done that and has streamlined the number of plans. And they have this giant bulk purchasing. But in order for us to get into that plan, the legislature insists that we have to do coalition bargaining. And what that means, before you can apply to the state, you've got to get the firefighters, the teachers, the policemen, all those unions to agree for the whole town of Winchester before you can get into the game. And that's a nice, cute trick on the legislators' part so they don't irritate some of the unions. That has to change. And I've talked to the largest union in the state, the Massachusetts Teachers Association, on that issue. And I said to them, and they agreed with me, that someday you're going to go into collective bargaining and they're going to say, you're going to have a choice. You take your health benefits and no salary, one or the other. And that time is almost here. And they would endorse coalition bargaining, elimination of coalition bargaining, because then we could meet with the police, and if they agreed, we could put the police in. And let me tell you, if we put the police in, and instead of this being $7.9 million this year, when last year it was only $7 million. $7 million last year, it's now $7 million, that's 7.9. That's happening all across the state, 12 to 14%. We've got to change the law so we can join the state system. And you'll get the benefits of what Peter Haley was talking about, and the benefits of what Mel was talking about, and the benefits that Ms. Burkhardt was talking about. We've got to do that. That is the way to do it, and do it fast. And so anybody that will listen to that, and I tell you, people are very interested, but it takes more than Winchester to change the State House. But that's a solution to this problem. And I just share that with you because I spent so much time on it. It didn't do me any good, but I want to share it with you anyway. Anyway, that brings us to motion 37, $533,664 for account 9150, FICA, Medicare tax and refunds. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. 38, $62,000 for 9170, non-contributory retirement. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. 39 this is for the reserve fund for the Finance Committee, $375,000. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. 40, general insurance, $300,000. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. And the last one on the front page, 41, $50,000 for 9640 environmental remediation services. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. If you turn the page, we're going to take a recess here, but when we get back, we will, the remaining motions, 42 to 56, are for the Capital Planning Committee. So when we come back, the Capital Planning Committee will give their report to the town meeting, and we will vote 42 to 56 after that. The meeting will be in recess for 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
WinCam's coverage of town meeting is brought to you by Get in Shape for Women, where you'll receive training in a caring and nurturing environment. Visit our new location at 564 Main Street, Winchester.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our live coverage of the second session of Winchester Spring Town Meeting here on May 7th. If you've been watching up till now, the meeting is in recess, and we have gone through Articles 6, 7, 8, and are currently working on 9. And that's a little bit confusing here because 5, 6, 7, and 8 were indefinitely postponed. Those were motions to establish enterprise funds for the transfer station, the recreation department, self-funding. We heard from Town Manager Mel Kleckner, who said that the enterprise is a preferred accounting method. These, both the transfer station and the recreation department is currently 100% funded by a revolving fund. And there are some revolving funds used at the transfer station where funds recovered from recyclables are put back in the transfer station budget. His proposal was, as he said, in a preferred accounting method to put these on, both of these on enterprise funds. But in his comments, he said there was too much confusion over this, so he withdrew them and said he would resubmit them next year for town meeting. And that brought us to Article 9, which is the budget. First two preliminary motions were for a little over $2 million to go to the Building Stabilization Fund, and these funds were created in an override several years ago, and they grow by the amount of 2.5% per year, where the towns, the voters of the town wanted to put in stabilization funds to make sure that capital needs and building needs were addressed in the town rather than just postponed year after year. So again, there was a little over $2 million put in the Building Stabilization Fund, and about $900,000 going to the Capital Improvement Stabilization Fund, which would be for capital improvements not related to buildings, such as vehicles and equipment. Those were passed. We heard from Chris Linsky, the chairman of the Finance Committee, who said in his opening remarks that the town must generate long-term plans and that the Finance Committee does not use stabilization funds in this budget. He commented that the energy budget was reduced by $200,000, a reduction of 5% from last year, and saluted the work of the committees that are working on energy efficiency, improving the energy efficiency of the town. In his remarks, Mel Kleckner, the town manager, said that there was a shift of $11,000 from the town manager's and town clerk's office personnel budget to the treasurer's office. In his remarks, he said two members of those, the town manager's and town clerk's office, were accepting reduced pay and reduced hours, and those funds were returned to the treasurer's office, where he commented on the very important work of collecting the town's funds. He said the DPW has outsourced some activities in the past year, 2 positions, and that a private vendor is now doing some mowing, and but he did remark that by not having these employees available, they would not be available for emergencies such as snowstorms and other critical needs from the DPW. We heard from Sarah Swiger, the chairman of the school committee, on the $30 million budget for the school department. She said that since 1993, 1,200 more students have been enrolled in the Winchester schools, 107 alone, 107 more in 2008 alone. She went into details of the school budget process, and she said they are particularly proud that all school personnel costs are covered by public funds this year rather than private donations. Dr. James Marini, the school superintendent, thanked the community for its override. He said the Promise Fund has maintained the quality of education in this town, but however, most classes are over the minimums in number of students. We heard remarks from once again from Mel Kleckner on health insurance when that amount came up in the budget. He said employee contributions have been increased in past years, and the main focus right now for the town was to consolidate the number of vendors in the town to get some efficiencies. We heard from Peter Haley, who said that the contribution rate of town employees ranges from 15% to 29% depending on the unions. He said that contribution rate is actually higher than many other towns, and the town is servicing about 1,000 current employees and retirees under its health plan. After the health budget of almost $8 million was approved, check that, yes, $7,994,000, we heard comments from John Sullivan, who commented that during his campaign for Lieutenant Governor last year, he had a chance to travel around the state. In his opinion, the one solution to the health crisis for municipalities is to join a state system, a statewide health insurance system to get the economies of scale. And to do that, the legislature has said that each town who wants to join the system must have all the unions in the town agree to joint negotiations on health insurance. And that brought us through to the recess. Again, we have gone through 41 line items of the entire municipal budget. Coming up after the recess, the rest of Article 9 are the motions by the Capital Planning Committee for capital expenditures for the town, and then Article 13 will also be the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund. There has been speculation that the town meeting might actually get all of its business done tonight. That remains to be seen. So stay with us. We will have our coverage will continue of spring town meeting second session, and that'll resume right after the recess.
With the first motion is motion 42, which I'll put. It's moved and seconded that $50,000 be appropriated for account 9346, school interior painting, of which $50,000 is for other expenses. And I recognize Mrs. Filio, Chairman of the Capital Planning Committee. Mrs. Filio will be giving a report on the complete capital report, elements of which are being recommended for financing in this town meeting.
Mr. Moderator, Board of Selectmen, FinCom, town meeting members, and viewing audience. Last fall, the Capital Planning Committee presented to you its recommendations for projects to be funded in fiscal year '08. At that time, town meeting approved the budget for projects from the Building Stabilization Fund. That's kind of the traditional way we do it. Where's your little thing here? Hold on. All right. In the spring, we come to you for recommendations for funding for the Capital Stabilization Fund, current revenue, cemetery trust fund, and water and sewer enterprise accounts. There have been several changes since we first put our book together, and I wanted to review with you the changes that came about and the reasons they came about. Under the Building Stabilization Fund, we had originally budgeted $915,000. The school department and EFPBC came before us when they obtained the results of the short-term master plan with some recommended space needs. And based upon that master plan, we have recommended $156,600 that will encompass schematic design drawings for an addition to McCall School and funding to evaluate either the value of portable classrooms and/or classroom modifications. So the new total is $1,071,660. The flood mitigation has been in process for many years now, as you know. You've heard this brought up many, many times. On April 20th, the town finally did receive approval from the state to complete the environmental impact report. We had originally budgeted $115,000 for this, but upon review of the state's letter reviewing the specific requirements of the final EIR, we are recommending $190,000 for this project. The increased amount will take into account some surveys that are needed, some extra meetings and special counsel that is needed. There are a variety of things that are going to be necessary before they will even approve this next step. We had been carrying for quite some time the $450,000 for flood mitigation, the channel widening project, but the Corps of Engineers has not completed its feasibility study now, and so we decided to take that amount out of the Capital Stabilization Fund at this time. When the time is appropriate, we'll take it back in again. The supplemental report does outline the projects for the Springtown meeting approval. In addition to the Capital Stabilization Fund and current revenue requests, we are sponsoring Article 10, which you will hear later. It regards projects put forth by the Energy Management Committee. This article will address Phase 1 of conservation measures to improve the energy efficiency in the town. In particular, the Energy Management Committee had audits done on 3 schools, Morocco, Lynch, and McCall. The money for this Phase 1 is going to be money that will be transferred from unexpended money from the operating budget of energy in the fiscal '07 budget. So when this comes time, you'll hear the details on that. Excuse me. We're also sponsoring Article 11 for the EFPBC, and that will begin to address the short-term space needs in the towns. Funding for this article will come from the Building Stabilization Fund. That's why you see the change on the numbers. So the following changes are reflected: the Building Stabilization Fund, the Capital Stabilization Fund, the preparation of the final EIR, which is the 190 instead of 115, and we had originally planned to budget $25,000 to the town clerk for her to go to Phase 2 of her record preservation project. However, she came to us a couple weeks ago and said that the voting machines are really in bad shape and she needs new machines. So we voted to change that same amount of money, but to change the use of that money, and that you will hear that tonight. Does anybody have any questions? That's it.
Okay, so we'll start running through the very first one is Motion 42, $50,000 for school interior painting. These are all described in the capital report that you have before you. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. Motion 43, $18,000 for account 9337 IT SPED computer system. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. 44, $20,000 for a school department van. All those in favor of that, please say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. 45, $68,624 for the library carpeting and painting. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. 46, $190,000 for the preparation of the final EIR that Mrs. Filio just spoke about. All those in favor of that, please say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. 47, $25,000 for the library HVAC repairs. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. And on the last two, remember that on 46, $190,000 is from the Capital Improvement Stabilization Fund, and on 47, $25,000 is from the Capital Improvement Stabilization Funds. All the motions from here down, funds are actually being taken out of the stabilization funds. 48, $54,600 for steel trailer replacement coming from the Capital Improvement Stabilization Fund. All those in favor, please. Yes, sir.
I have a question on a couple of the expenditures, 48, 49, that are coming from the capital planning. I assume that most of these are brand new purchases.
Yes.
Has the capital committee or the stabilization committee looked into the possibility of procuring used equipment to replace any of this stuff, or?
The ambulance is not something they want to have us use. They want the new equipment, the new defibrillators. They need it to be up to date.
Well, I'm not asking for a used defibrillator.
Yeah.
I'm talking
no, but
about.
I mean, they have it.
I mean, I like a lot of new stuff
Excuse
myself.
me. Let the lady answer the question, please.
No, we have not looked into used ambulances.
Do you have a follow-up question?
Well, what about like a used trailer or something like that?
I don't think so. We have been slowly replacing those steel trailers. I believe we did one last year. They're in very bad shape. They're very rusted out, and they're just kind of not in good shape. So we're trying to slowly do that and have them in good order.
Okay, these motions all require two-thirds vote. The first two were unanimous. So on this one here, on $54,600 for the steel trailer replacement, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The vote is unanimous. 49, $170,000 for the fire department ambulance. All those in favor, please say, yes, sir, way up back.
Reading the Finance Committee report, 52,000 miles on a vehicle like that doesn't sound like a lot. And the issue of defibrillators was just mentioned. Why not just buy the additional equipment we need instead of replacing the whole ambulance? It sounds premature to me.
Further, go ahead.
I believe that one of the factors that came into this is that the ambulance brings in $300,000 a year in revenue to the town. And so it's not just spending the money, but we do get money back for this, significant money.
I think the gentleman's question was, you wouldn't get less money. Would you do you get money back for buying the ambulance, or do you get money back as reimbursements for transporting patients?
For reimbursement, for transporting patients.
Yeah, so that wouldn't affect the...
Shall I ask them? Yes. I believe that John Nash is back there. Would you like to come down and speak to that issue? There he is.
Chief, the question was, while you're coming down here, the question from the gentleman up back is that the purchase of the fire department ambulance with only 52,000 miles on it, why wouldn't we just re-equip it and not make this large purchase?
It has been our experience that the ambulance requires replacement every 7 years. And most recently, the ambulance that was purchased in 1993 was taken off the road by the state because it didn't maintain its life. We typically use an ambulance for 7 years as full-time first response vehicle, and then when we purchase a new vehicle, the older vehicle is used as a backup ambulance and is used when the primary ambulance is out of service for maintenance or during large storms in the town. And in order to get 14 years out of a vehicle, which is an extraordinary amount of use, it requires us to replace the ambulance every 7 years.
Further on the question, on the ambulance. Ted?
I guess through you to the chief as a point of clarification. Mrs. Filio stated that we made $300,000 on the ambulance. Does that take into account staffing the ambulance, the overtime, the wear and tear on the ambulance, the training of the paramedics and stuff like that? And my other follow-up question is if somebody comes out of Winchester, they probably go to Winchester Hospital. Is Winchester Hospital sharing any of this expense at all? Because it seems like, I mean, it's a necessary thing, but it seems like a taxi service to Winchester Hospital or one of the surrounding hospitals, and not necessarily that, I mean, we make, I mean, maybe it's a disproportionate amount of money.
The $300,000, Mr. Moderator, is the revenue from patient transports. The cost of training and the cost of our personnel is borne by the operating budget of the fire department.
Further on the question? All those in favor of the appropriation of $170,000 for the fire department ambulance, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. The motion was unanimous. Motion 50, $120,000 for 9326, the sidewalk tractor sander. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. $130,000 for account 9329, the street sweeper. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. 52, $200,000 for 9330, the roads and sidewalk program. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. DPW Director Vehicle, $28,000, motion number 53. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. 54, $25,000 for account 9322, now relabeled as the voting machines.
Replacement.
Replacement. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Did somebody say no? Or sneeze? I can't, who's? Oh, okay. Oh, it's probably Jim Marini up back there. Yeah. That was unanimous. 55, $24,800 for account 9336, IT School LAN. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. And finally, 56, $20,000 for the cemetery sidewalk improvements. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. Thank you, Mrs. Filio. I should just say editorially that the Capital Planning Committee is really sort of an unsung committee. They go over, prepare a 5-year program, get all the requests, go over all the details with the various departments, and do the difficult job of prioritizing which procurements to make, and have put out, as usual, a good report. Ladies and gentlemen, that completes Article 9. We now go to Article 10. Yes. Pardon? No, just keep your seat. You can join Mr. Swanton. And the Article 10. Article 10 is on your big motion book, and it's to see if the town will appropriate a sum of money for energy conservation projects, including engineering services at various school and town buildings. And the motion is as follows. It's moved and seconded that $350,000 is appropriated to account 9350 energy conservation projects. Said appropriation to be funded from by a transfer from account 1910 fiscal 07 energy budget. This is different than a motion under the our yellow sheet where we're appropriating money from the town's funds. Here, the money in the energy account in 07 was appropriated at last year's annual town meeting, and there's a surplus in that account. And this particular article asks for a transfer of $350,000 of that surplus to be used for energy conservation projects. And this group, the Energy Management Committee, is going to make a presentation on the use of those funds if the town meeting in their wisdom votes for that. Just want.
Hi, my name is George Wood, and we're here to give a very brief presentation on these projects. But first, as always, we'd just like to acknowledge the people on the committee. If you take a minute and read. We'd also like to give special attention and thanks to Pete and Leanne from the DPW department, without which these efforts would not be successful. We'd also like to thank the Board of Selectmen and the Capital and the Finance Committee. They've all met with us individually over the last month or so, preparing, first understanding where our energy budget has gone, and also preparing for this particular warrant article. This is our mission statement, but I think the good news that Leanne advises caution when I say this, because we have 2 more months left in the fiscal year, but it looks like we're on track to have of our FY07 allocation for energy, about $400,000 will not need to be spent, and we estimate that the energy use, not dollars now, is down by approximately 14%. And this is due in large part to efforts that even predated the Energy Committee, thanks to Pete and the custodial staff and everyone else here, plus the implementation of policies that our committee has implemented with the cooperation from the school department. We also want to acknowledge Vandy French and Jim Marini and his team for working with us in the schools. So this has been a group effort. The temperature set point policy has been in large part where a lot of the savings came, but also some really aggressive efforts in the boiler rooms around the town. So thanks very much to everyone who's worked with us. And were you going to do this update? Yeah.
Okay, I'm Bill Swan from Precinct 7, also on the committee. What we've been doing is having an auditor come in and audit the buildings and suggest what we said was quick payback things that we could do to reduce energy consumption on the buildings. And so they've been looking at the existing conditions, and I think it's no secret that we've had a lot of deferred maintenance. We've cut the budgets and cut the personnel so much that we have not been able to keep up with what these systems really need. We have some very ancient systems that are very hard to maintain. And so we're looking for things that we can do that are going to completely ratchet down the usage of energy in the town. Can't promise it's going to reduce this budget overall, but all we can hope is we're going to use less gallons and less BTUs and less kilowatt hours in future years than we do today. We've done this for 3 schools, Morocco, Lynch, and McCall. We picked those because they are large energy users and have not been touched for a while as the first 3 audits. We found approximately $400,000 in improvements that we could do, and very conservatively, with very conservative assumptions on electricity prices and things like that, we can save at least $100,000 a year by making those changes to those 3 schools. Payback there is 4 years. We actually think it's significantly more because we have not counted in the cost of some maintenance that ought to be done to maintain the energy usage down otherwise, and we have not calculated in the full cost of the fuels and electricity based on the way that the study was done. We need to do this work during summer 2007 to avoid disrupting the schools. It's not work that can be done while the students are in session. So we're kind of under a timeline here. So to deal with that, we took this $400,000 project. We approached the Finance Committee with the support of the other boards and asked for $50,000 so that we could put out to bid the engineering work to do the planning for doing these things. And we're coming to you today for the other $350,000 of that. The project is out there, has been advertised, and we're waiting bids back on it. And so we want to be able to start right away after town meeting finishes, which is why we're trying to do this budget transfer rather than going through the standard capital process. So Article 10 is going to ask you to take $350,000 that's in the energy budget today that we had budgeted to spend on energy through the end of the fiscal year and put it in a different account that we can spend on actually executing this project. When we get that thing done, we'll be able to start right away, get it done through the summer, and we'll start saving that money next fall when it comes to heating season. The details are here, but basically at Lynch, we're refurbishing the what they call the unit ventilators, those big boxes in every classroom. We're replacing the old pneumatic controls with a modern electronic control system that will give us more control of the building and more control of doing things like setbacks and things like that. Be able to monitor with a computer-based system there the temperature in every room so we can find and fix problems faster, give Pete Lawson here the information he needs to maintain the building properly. At McCall, we really have to recommission the system. I think as many people know, we've had problems with contractors in the last couple of school projects we've done. The net effect is some of the things at the end, like getting all the systems working correctly, haven't necessarily been done. And so we're trying to do this kind of recommissioning to get that piece working. Changing a few things to some technical pieces here, but ways that we can operate that equipment that's there in different ways, reprogram the control systems to save money. And then at Morocco, in that case, we're going to stick with the existing pneumatic controls and then improve the boiler. So we have all these basic costs here, add up to about $360,000. We have talked to the control engineering firms as part of the preliminary thing. We think the estimate might have been a little low, so there's another $20,000 there. And then there's another $20,000 because these estimates were done probably 6 months ago and we've seen an inflation trend on those things. So the total's $400, $50,000 off, $350 is what we're looking for tonight. Basically, after we get this stuff started, we're basically, one of the things the committee's doing right now is working hard with DPW to get better ways of tracking ongoing usage of energy. And keep in mind, in many cases, this means that the custodian's going out and sticking a stick in the tank at the end of the month and taking readings for us so we can build up a database and understand where we're really using the energy. We're going to complete the audits on the rest of the buildings with the money we already have encumbered from a previous fiscal year. And we're going to come back here to capital planning, maybe to this body again next spring, if we hopefully save as much money as we're going to save out of the budget you just passed, and try to get some of these things funded and done and save the town money. That's what we had.
Thank you very much. Why don't you gentlemen take a seat down front here and we get a report from the Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee recommends favorable action. Prior capital investments have already reduced energy consumption. These recommendations are supported by a professional energy audit, and there's a return on investment, as stated before, an average of 4 years, although some McCall and Morocco are much shorter. The Finance Committee also wants to, again, recognize the efforts of the Energy Committee, also the DPW, the schools, and the town's employees to continue to reduce energy consumption. And the Finance Committee wants to note that we're committed to supporting these proactive teams. We're still looking for the best ways and most effective and timely ways to motivate departments like DPW and schools to reduce their budget spending so that we can return those savings back to those departments. Thank you.
Further on the question, this is a majority vote, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I have a question for the Energy Committee. I was just wondering if there was anybody looked into lights and electricity, ways to have lights automatically go off after people leave the rooms and things like that?
Yes, sir, Mr.
Some of these things, we have done lighting projects already, and the things, Pete Lawson was going through all of the schools and getting lower cost lighting to begin with. One of the things that we're looking at is some of these projects, if it makes sense, is installing the light sensors to turn lights on and off. We also, there's discussions on things like there is a lighting control system at Ambrose that we're trying to get programmed to turn the lights on and off a little bit better and things like that. So there's a lot of different pieces here as we're finding them. More efficient lighting and doing this. And obviously I think the big issue is going forward, we have to make sure we save enough out of any of the construction budgets to do these more advanced energy management systems, because certainly since the time these buildings were built, it's been a lot more expensive, and there's much better payback on more complete controls to do that.
On a follow-up, yes.
Just to clarify, so for Lynch, McCall, and Morocco, they already have lighting system management, or?
I don't believe, yeah, Pete, you want to do that?
Peter.
Yes, all of our public buildings have undergone some form of NSTAR rebate incentive program over the last 5 years, other than the brand new building renovation projects such as McCall. They don't presently have motion sensors for the lighting and all. We are looking into occupancy sensors through these audit systems where it would not only control the light, would also control the unit ventilators too. The problem is that cost payback is difficult to calculate on a room that's lit, or how much you're going to potentially shut it off during the day. So we're looking at it, and it's the next phase.
Further on the question? Are you ready for the question, ladies and gentlemen? Majority vote. All those in favor of the appropriation of $350,000, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we come now to Article 11 to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money for professional services required to meet the short-term enrollment needs of the Winchester Public Schools. It's moved and seconded that $156,660 be appropriated from the Building Stabilization Fund established under Chapter 69 of the Acts of 2002 for professional services including engineering services, schematic drawings, specifications, and cost estimates required to meet the short-term enrollment needs of the Winchester Public Schools, and further that the Educational Facilities Planning and Building Committee be authorized to have oversight of the design of said project. In accordance with Section 4-2 of the Winchester Home Rule Charter, the town manager shall have the authority to enter into contracts and approve payments. This motion, ladies and gentlemen, because it uses our stabilization fund, requires a 2/3 vote. And I believe, Mr. Deering, you're making this presentation. Is that correct, sir?
Mr. Moderator, fellow town meeting members, I believe last fall when Dr. Marini became before this body to request a sum of money for doing the master plan, he went into some detail about the changes in the Massachusetts School Building Association program, which kind of, threw a little kilter into our plan because we're on a track to bring a new school on in every 5 years. And because of the changes, there was a moratorium put on that, which won't be lifted until this July 1st. And as I understand, there's some 180, 190 school districts that already have applications in, and there'll probably be a lot more by July 1st. So this moratorium was put on, so we were kind of put on hold. While we were sitting here on hold, our school enrollment started increasing. To the point that as we stand here today, we, in the elementary level and in the middle school, do not have any spare capacity. And if we do not do something in the short term, according to the school department, comes September of 2008, we may have a problem of housing all the children that are at the doorsteps of our schools. So part of that $75,000 to develop a new master plan, we did look into, say, what we're calling short-term and long-term goals to get us to the point when the MSBA program comes back online and we're eligible to get a new school or a renovated school, whatever the case may be. So I'd like to just refer to these charts to give you an idea what's happened. This is in the elementary, the K-5, where we're having the biggest problem in determining enrollment because right now, this is historical data is right here. And as we stand today, I think we're at a little 1,888 children in the school system. Now, there's been some question about the demographics, and I must admit it's not an exact science. I think they all use the same methods. It's the assumptions that they use in interpreting the data. But as you can see, the top line is a projection made by the school department based on the current birth rate that we've experienced in the last 5 to 10 years. The lower line, this green line, is a projection made by NESDAQ, which reflects the current birth rate. We had a high birth rate of around 280 births in Winchester about 5 years ago, and according to the town clerk's office, I mean, last year it was at 206. So what has happened is, back here, when we had a low birth rate before, our elementary enrollment stayed fairly steady. And around 2001, as I believe, this is when the birth rate started to pick up. And as you can see, it's starting to decline. And as I say, the school department's projection is using that constant or historical birth rate, and that's why their number is an upper limit. The one we get from NESDAQ, as you can see, as the birth rate starts to decline, it's starting to drop off. In either case, the capacity of the elementary school is 1,840. So even though the birth rate is dropping, we still have a capacity problem out through the year 2011. So one of the reasons we're requesting the funds to do further study is because we're not too sure where the enrollment is going. And come this September, we'll have some actual data because we'll know how many kids are in the school system, and we'll be able to tell whether the enrollment is tracking the high road or the low road or someplace in between. So $37,660 of the funds that we're requesting tonight is to basically to come up with a playbook to come up with a number of scenarios where the enrollment is going in the short term, whether that be a series of all portables, opening up one of the Parkhurst Mystic, moving central office to lease space, moving central office to the portables that are up at Parkhurst. Anything is possible, but we need some money to come up with all these scenarios and put a cost estimate. So once we see where that enrollment is going in September, we can react to it and not trying to play catch up and rushing to try to address this problem. So, and it gives us some flexibility. I'm not saying this is where we're going, but say where we're going with portables. Right now, at one projection, we may be saying we need 4 portables at a particular school. But if the enrollment starts going the other way, we may say it only needs 2. We haven't made any long-term commitment, and we have that flexibility of only putting 4 portables instead of 2. So that is what we're planning to do in the elementary. Now, if I can work this. Now, in the middle school, They also have an enrollment problem. They're currently making plans next year to take the teacher's lunchroom and convert it to a classroom. I think they're taking one of the specialist room up on the 3rd floor and converting it to a classroom to accommodate the increased enrollment. In the middle school, the school department projection and NESTEC projections are relatively close together. And the reason being is that those children are already in the school system. We know they're there. We're not depending upon, projections of birth rates. So they're there, and they're going to be there for quite a while, because you can see 2015, we're roughly around 1,300 in enrollment. The school was originally designed for about 800. So what we're looking for funding for this project is, it's quite evident to the school committee, the capital planning committee, and the finance committee that there is no short-term fix, a 2 or 3 year fix that will be able to address the enrollment problem in McCall, and that it actually requires a much more long-term fix. And what we're proposing is to put a addition on the back of McCall School, which will have about 12 classrooms. We're projecting that we may need 9 to 10. But one of the issues that came up when we went to capital planning was, is there some flexibility in what happens if we're off by 10% or under by 10%? And so in that building, there's 12 classrooms. If we're under, that space could be used for offices or a special needs program. And if we're over...
Mr. Deering,
Yes.
if I could, I think you may have the wrong slide up there. Is that's the 9 to 12.
Okay,
And
I'm sorry.
I think you should have the 6 to 8.
There we go.
That was the slide he was talking about, showing.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
It's basically that it follows the same pattern that the school department projection and the NESTEC projection are fairly close, because those children are in the school system and we know they're there, and it's going to take, once again out to 2015, 2016, and those numbers still exceed the capacity of the McCall Middle School. So both of those plans, one is giving us some flexibility in the elementary level, because we're not too sure which way the enrollment is going because of the birth rate being the variable. In the McCall Middle School, we know that they're there. We don't have the space. We know that we're going to need the space over the long term. So with these funds, it's the intent of the committee to come up with some schematic diagrams, some cost estimates, to come back to the capital planning committee by July 30th, I believe, to get approval for them to bring back to the fall town meeting for approval as a project. And in the high school, now part of the master plan that we're developing also has a long range, and that the consultants we hired are still working on that. But as you can see, it takes a while for all these children to go through the school system and eventually graduate. So that peak and increase in enrollment that's in the middle school now and continues, eventually will transfer to the high school. And but we're not prepared right now at this time to come up with a plan for the high school. Right now, we're just trying to address the enrollment at the elementary and the McCall Middle School. Thank you, and I urge you to vote in favor.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the motion is to appropriate $156,660, and that money is going to be used for initiating schematic designs for the McCall Middle School, and also to see if they can develop a playbook, as Mr. Deering says, to resolve the elementary school overcrowding. We have a recommendation from the Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee recommends favorable action. It was the sense of the committee that the forecast for additional requirements for the middle school is reliable, because it's based on the actual class sizes in the elementary schools. The longer-term forecast needs with the elementary schools are a little bit more speculative, although the short-term need is pretty clear. The portables will buy us a short-term solution, some time to anticipate what new construction would be for what elementary school, and the portables also may provide some use for the high school if needed. Regarding alternatives, the EFPBC and the schools indicate that alternatives have been exhaustively considered. The Finance Committee has not independently confirmed this. We still approve favorable action on this.
Okay, the lady had a question up here.
I have a question for Mr. Deering, I guess.
Yeah, he's right down front
Okay.
here. Yeah.
I was just wondering what the big picture plan was for the elementary schools. Because not that I don't think we need to solve a short-term problem, but big picture, we have 2 beautiful new elementary schools, and then we have 3 that are in dire need of attention. And I just would like to have an understanding of what the EFPB, whatever, that committee thinks is going to happen in the long run, because when I voted for the first override and the second override to fix the other 2 elementary schools, I was anticipating that, my elementary school was going to be coming up on the list fairly soon, and other people's elementary schools were going to be coming up on the list. And now everything seems to be being put on hold, and I would love to have an understanding of what their expected, the other schools being fixed up, what that anticipated schedule is going to be. Not necessarily how soon, but what schools would be next.
The lady asked what the strategic plan is, as you see it, Mr. Deering, going forward for the elementary school, and specifically among the 3 elementary schools that are not new, which elementary school would you see coming next?
Under the current master plan that we have now, which because we are working on one, revising it, it called basically to bring a new elementary school online every 5 years. And under that master plan, the next elementary school would have been the Vincent Owen School, which by that old plan should have been online around 2010. The plan could still wind up being that, but I would say that the next elementary school probably is going to get pushed out 2 or 3 years because of the new rules and regulations. And I must say that under the old program, we used to come in and say, we have an elementary school that's, say, overcrowded, has some infrastructure work. We would go get an architect, put the plan together, submit it to the state, they would approve it, we get a contractor, build it, and 2 or 3 years after that, we'd start getting reimbursement. The state has taken altogether a different approach to it. And, if you come back and say we had an overcrowding issue, and say in the case of Winchester, they possibly can come back and say, well, you have the Mystic School and the Parkhurst School, you don't need another elementary school, why don't you reopen that? Or why don't you use portables? So their criteria and how they look at it is altogether different. But it's our hope that the new master plan would call for probably the same sequence of schools as the existing master plan, which was the Vincent Owen, Morocco, Lynch, and then the high school. But a lot how that plan works out has a lot to do on the criteria that the state will be using.
Okay, way up back. Yes, sir. Right to behind you.
Hi, I have a question. The projections for the grammar school, all I heard was birth rate. But there's another factor in this town that we have a lot of, I think like maybe a third of the population, the people have no children in the homes anymore.
Could you speak up a little bit, sir?
I'm sorry. That I think there's a high percentage of the population where there are no children in the homes anymore. And as I look around my own neighborhood, I see the older people moving out and young families moving in. And it seems to me that that would be a great source of increase in the school population, and I wonder how much that has been considered. Are we in touch with the real estate people and things like that?
when they looked at that, that is one of the things that they look at. I see if I can recall all the things. We look at birth rates, we look at building permits, we look at sales of house, and then we also look at what they call in-migration, which is basically somebody who enters the school system that never started in the school system. So some family moves in and they have a 4th grader and a 7th grader, they come in and register. That's an in-migration because they were never in the school system at the beginning of the year or in the previous years. When we looked at all of those, the permits, housing permits are relatively constant. The sales of property is relatively constant. In the in-migration, in the demographics, they calculate roughly, and historically it's borne this out, is that there's roughly a 2% in-migration every year. Now, we did a small study when we were looking at this. We went back to last June 30th to this April 13th, and we counted up how many children registered in the school system that weren't in the school system previously. And in round numbers, it was roughly 140 children registered in the school system. At the same time, about 53 children moved out of the school system. So we had a net gain of about 90 children. Now, that's through all 12 grades, not just in the elementary. So historically, this 2% in migration is a pretty good number, and that is in these projection numbers. And the number of building starts are in this, the number of houses being sold, and they've also looked at the potential of a Hamilton farm and a pansy patch, no matter what we do there. And as I believe, even with that, that could possibly be made like 3 children per grade level if you spread it out. So that has all been encountered, but the big variable that's really driving this, and you can see on that first slide where the enrollment was way down, 5 years prior to that, the birth rate was low. So the biggest thing that drives it is the number of children being born in Winchester.
You ready for the question, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, sir. Mr. Friesel.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. To Mr. Daring, through you. I know you mentioned the high school, and I think you indicated not much has happened there in the planning. I wonder if you could at least state what you think is the timing for some kind of decision concerning the high school.
Well, the master plan that we're working on now, the complete master plan, which would be the short and the long term, so it's really the master plan, which is going to be completed by the end of July, will include the high school as part of the master plan, where that would fall on the schedule, and possibly what we think. It's the little we looked at it right now. I don't think from a square footage point of view that we're deficient at the high school. From the programs that are in there, there may have to be some modifications made within the school, or a new. I mean, anything is possible. We could, we've all talked about, flood mitigation and whether you could build a new high school on the same site because it's within the 100-year flood plan. So I'm not too sure what would come out of in the long-range plan, other than possibly at that time identifying that by the year, 2018, that something needs to be done at the high school.
Further on the question? Are you ready for the question, ladies and gentlemen? 2/3 vote required. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the chair declares that it's unanimous. Thank you very much, Mr. Daring. Good report. The Article 12 is next, to see if the town will vote to appropriate sum of money to be used with such sums available from the State Highway Fund. This is a standard article every year, ladies and gentlemen, so that we commonly refer to these as Chapter 90 funds to be used for highways here in Winchester. So it's moved and seconded that the town be authorized to accept and expend funds from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts State Highway Fund for maintenance, repair, alteration, relocation, and other improvements to townways and/or to purchase of equipment, acquisition of easements, and payments of damages and expenses in connection therewith, and to authorize the transfer and use for said purposes of any unused balances. Any comments, Mr. Kleckner? No comments. Finance Committee? You recommending favorable action? Okay, further on the discussion. Talkative group. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Article 13, to see if the town will raise and appropriate sum of monies to defray the expenses of the Water and Sewer Department. And ladies and gentlemen, if you go back to your yellow sheet, Article 13 has one motion. It's on the back page, and it's moved and seconded that $5,109,358 be appropriated for account 4400 Water and Sewer Enterprise, of which $1,280,420 is for personal services, $3,690,735 is for other expenses, $138,203 is equipment, of which $136,203 is for the following capital project: R900 radio frequency meters. That is the total water and sewer budget, Mr. Kleckner. Yes, sir.
Mr. Moderator. I'm Doug Marmon. Last fall, this town meeting debated and approved a rate increase for our water rate increase. And at the time, the Finance Committee observed that the water and sewer enterprise often doesn't get quite the scrutiny of other accounts because it's not within the Proposition 2.5 limit. We said at that time that the head count of this department should drop from 20 to 18. The budget that you have in front of you does implement that reduction. There is currently a project going on right now to install radio transmitting water meters. This has been going on for a while, and this is an excellent example of productivity increases. When this project is done later this year, we believe that another worker could be eliminated from the enterprise. Even with these reductions in personnel, we believe that the enterprise will have no trouble in delivering the service that we have come to expect. That said, I need to point out that this enterprise is a division of Public Works, and the DPW has several divisions. Each one has its own people, own budget, and own mandate, but in times of emergency, they work together as a single team. And as the town manager has pointed out earlier, they need a certain bulk, they need, when workers are pressed into service, when the snow flies and when the rivers overflow, we need to make sure we have enough people. We got to be careful that we don't sacrifice their ability to respond to non-routine events.
And the Finance Committee recommends? Okay, thank you very much. The Finance Committee recommends favorable action. Further on the question? Yes, sir, Mr. Friesel.
In this water sewer division. So my question is, if those employees, are they going to be transferred somewhere else? Where? Or is this a net total reduction of 2 in the total town employment headcount?
The question was whether these two will be transferred somewhere else. No, it's a reduction.
Further on the question? Would you want something else? Do you have something else?
I believe that these positions are vacant, and I should have mentioned that as well. We have a hiring freeze in place and have not filled positions when there was a reasonable opportunity that they might not be filled in the budget process.
Mr. Friesel, on a follow-up.
They will not be filled.
Are you ready for the question? Question comes on the appropriation of $5,109,358. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Article 14, the Personnel Board report. This motion, ladies and gentlemen, was on the table out there, and the chair's in receipt of a motion from the town manager to postpone further consideration of Article 14 to a time certain, and that being after consideration of Article 4, which is was postponed to a time certain after Article 23, making this one of the last motions that will be heard in the annual town meeting. It's my understanding that's to give time for the Finance Committee to receive and evaluate the total costs of the collective bargaining agreements. All those in favor of postponing to a time certain, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. That brings us to Article 15, and that's found on page 22 of your thing, and this is a motion by the town manager to see if the town will vote to continue a revolving account. And it's moved and seconded that the town vote to continue a revolving account in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, in order to receive monies, grants, or gifts and fees charged for recreation services sponsored by the Recreation Department, and further to authorize the Recreation Department to administer and expend funds received in fiscal year 2008 up to a limit of $420,000. Mr. Kleckner.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, as I think has been pointed out previously in the discussion of enterprise funds, the Recreation Department has operated on a revolving fund basis, which is a different accounting mechanism. But the bottom line is that the funds, the fees that are received and the expenses that are expended are done so and accounted for separately from the general fund. Do not require an appropriation of this body, although one of the enterprise funds, or excuse me, one of the revolving funds does require annual reauthorization by this town meeting.
May we have a recommendation from the Finance Committee? And you could cover all revolving accounts if you wish.
Sure. The Finance Committee recommends favorable action on the Recreation Department salaries and benefits for permanent employees. Do you want me to cover 16 and 17 as well?
Okay, well, why don't we just take that vote?
Okay.
Is there any other question on the revolving fund for the Recreation Department? If not, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Article 16, same thing, only this is for the recyclables. Moved and seconded that the town vote to continue a revolving fund in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53 and a half, in order to receive the proceeds from the sale of recyclables collected by the town's transfer station, and further to authorize the Department of Public Works to administer and expend funds received in fiscal year 2008 up to a limit of $20,000. Mr. Kleckner.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, this is an article that would reauthorize, as required by law annually, a revolving fund that the Department of Public Works operates to manage the town's recycling program, and that is the materials, predominantly the newsprint, which is the most lucrative of all at this time. We sell that product, we take the money in, and it's not that significant in the big scheme of things, and we use that money to maintain the recycling program. That was one of the revolving funds that would have been eliminated. Going to an enterprise fund, it would have been absorbed within the enterprise fund. Perhaps we'll be back next year to do that, but the current proposal is to retain the existing revolving fund for this recyclable program.
Thank you. May we have a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee recommends favorable action.
All those in favor of the main motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, the motion carries. That brings us to Article 17. This is the same thing on another revolving account, and this is for the Board of Health. The Director of the Board of Health is here, and the motion is moved and seconded that the town vote to continue a revolving fund in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53.5, in order to receive monies, grants, or gifts and fees charged for public health programs such as clinics sponsored by the Board of Health, and further to authorize the Board of Health to administer and expend funds for these and related programs such as medical services up to a limit of $35,000 in fiscal year 2008. Chair recognizes the head of the board, head of the health department.
Thank you.
Jennifer Murphy. Sorry.
Thank you. This article we have proposed in years past. The fund allows us to collect fees for health and vaccine clinics, to retain those funds, not put them in the general fund subject to appropriation by the Board of Selectmen. Those funds are available for the Board of Health to use for future health and vaccine clinics year to year. The language, the purpose of the fund is the same as it has been for previous years.
Okay, any question? May we have a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee recommends favorable action.
Thank you very much. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of money for available funds for the purposes of hiring a licensed hazardous waste company. It's moved and seconded that the town vote to raise and appropriate a transfer from available funds $15,000 for the purposes of hiring a licensed hazardous waste company to conduct one or more household hazardous waste collection days at an appropriate site within the town, period. Ms. Murphy, that's your motion as well. Do you wish to say anything else? This is a standard one we do every year, ladies and gentlemen, to fund the hazardous waste program.
Right. I guess it's an opportunity for me to just remind everyone that we actually have a hazardous waste collection day coming up this Saturday at the DPW yard. We hope to continue the tradition of having an annual collection day for FY08 as well. It's been very successful, so we do hope you vote in favor of that.
Thank you very much. And the Finance Committee, why is your table so far away today? You know, it's like you're coming in from Woburn. Yeah.
Actually, if you might have noticed, it's getting smaller. We're actually looking for volunteers to join the Finance Committee. Thank you for bringing that up. The Finance Committee recommends favorable action on this item.
Thank you very much. All those in favor of the main motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Article 19, to see if the town will authorize the Board of Selectmen to sell or otherwise transfer all or a portion of a parcel of land consisting of approximately 19 acres off of Ridge Street, commonly known as Hamilton Farm. It's moved and seconded that further consideration of this article be indefinitely postponed. The Chair recognizes Tom Howley of the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, town meeting members. As the moderator has indicated, the Board of Selectmen has made a motion to indefinitely postpone this article, and the reason for that is that we are all going to be talking about this very same article in the special town meeting that will occur in early June. And it's my understanding that in all likelihood this will be considered after the hospital, probably on June 7th. So rather than take your time this evening in any length, I just want to focus you on a few things that are going to be happening over the next few weeks, and which I think, if we're all paying attention to them, will make our discussion on the 7th that much more informed. This past Friday, just this last Friday at 4 o'clock, was the deadline for the receipt of the revised proposals for the 5 applicants or bidders that remained sort of in the hunt, if you will. We, in fact, did receive revised proposals from all of the bidders. Those proposals were posted today on the town's website. I understand that we're having some difficulty in terms of opening some of those, probably because of the size of the files, but we're going to try to work that out hopefully tomorrow. So we encourage everyone who is interested to go to the town website, take a look. If you don't want to read the entire proposal, you might at least look at the site plans and perhaps the cover letters that came with those, and I think it will tell you how the proposals have changed and what they consist of now. Copies of these proposals have been provided to the town's consultants, particularly the consultants that we have been using throughout this process for site planning, traffic, and financial analysis. And we've also provided copies, or are making copies, if they haven't received them yet, to what we call the stakeholder boards, our hardworking boards and commissions who have been assisting all of us in trying to better understand the proposals that we've received. And those boards are the Planning Board, the Conservation Commission, the Historic Commission, the Housing Partnership. We're going to ask the Housing Authority to help us out this time and take a look at it, and also, of course, the Finance Committee. We've asked that group, our consultants as well as the stakeholder boards, to provide us with their comments by May 14th. And once we've received those, our board will have an opportunity to go over those, and on the 21st of May, at McCall at 7 o'clock, we will have what actually will be, I believe, our 8th or 9th public information session. And at that time, we will hear from our consultants, we will hear from the various stakeholder boards, and we will hear from the public with regards to the revised proposals. I then anticipate, although the board has not decided yet, I anticipate that our board will probably have 1 or 2 more meetings prior to the June 7th special town meeting, at which time we're going to consider the information that we've received and the advice we've received, have more of an opportunity for public input, and then if we can, and only if we can, if we feel comfortable with it, will we make a recommendation to the special town meeting asking for its approval of what we would describe as a preliminary designation of a finalist. And I say preliminary because ultimately after that approval by the special town meeting, there'll be several months of negotiation that will go on with that finalist leading up to the fall town meeting, at which time we would come back and present to you a purchase and sale agreement and a development agreement, as well as presumably zoning. So town meeting will have yet another opportunity, as will the public, to consider all of this. So that's sort of where we're heading, and hopefully you'll stay tuned and pay attention, and we'll have enough to talk about over the next few weeks so that by the time we get to our special town meeting, it will be an informed and productive evening for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Howley. Are you ready for the question, ladies and gentlemen? On indefinite postponement, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. That brings us to Article 20, and it's moved and seconded that further consideration, it's indefinite postponement. Oh, okay, it's moved and seconded that Article 20 be indefinitely postponed. Mr. Kleckner.
Mr. Moderator, I rise just to provide the town meeting with some information about the current year's budget, the fiscal 07 budget, in the interest of full disclosure. As I think the moderator indicated, when we were appropriating the budget, the town appropriates its budget in categories, usually in departments, and even within those departments we appropriate in subcategories: personnel, services, equipment, and expenses and equipment. So there is some limited flexibility for the town to move money around in the event it needs funding. There really are 2 ways in which to do that. The first is this article, which the town inserts in the warrant every year in the event it needs to move some funds around through action of the town meeting, or the reserve fund. The reserve fund is a statutory fund that this town meeting appropriates, but gives the Finance Committee some discretion to transfer funds without further town meeting action if the issue is an emergency or unforeseen nature. So right now, the town has about $300,000 left, roughly, in its reserve fund, which is a healthy balance, and we're fortunate that we're not here, as we have been in other years, with a snow and ice deficit, or energy expenses, or health insurance, or some other unforeseen expense. However, there are some expenses that are going to need to be addressed. The town has expended a great deal of funds on professionals, mostly legal professionals, dealing with the Hamilton Farm issue and its environmental impact report. The school department has notified the Finance Committee that it may be short, given some of the vacancies that it has encountered with a number of maternity leaves that required them to hire replacement teachers. So with the Finance Committee and myself, after having discussed that, we feel it's best to wait a little while. Since we're having a special town meeting in June, we will insert a similar type of an article in the special town meeting, and in the event that the reserve fund is not sufficient, or if we feel it's best to have the town meeting transfer funds as opposed to the reserve fund, we will bring those to your attention at that time. Thank you.
All those in favor of indefinite postponement, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's getting near the bewitching hour, but I think I have something that might be an attractive option here. We have really one business item left, and that's the to appropriate monies, which is $2,700 for this unpaid bill from Elco Landscape. And after that, if we were to come back on Thursday, we would be taking up 22, the West Side Field, which we've already decided, indefinite postponement of the Community Preservation Committee, and the rest are housekeeping motions, and we've got to do the article on the collective bargaining. And so I would suggest that if we feel up to it, to finish this last minor motion, and then we would adjourn this annual town meeting, and I'd ask the selectmen to concur with this and the Finance Committee. We would, rather than bring everybody back here for a half hour on Thursday, that we would adjourn this annual town meeting until the 4th of June. And we would have it run parallel, it would run parallel with the special town meeting. And what we would do is we'd be able to open it up, get the collective bargaining done, and then we'd dissolve the town meeting. So that, it makes no sense to come back for a couple of issues here, that one of which the collective bargaining may not be ready anyway or complete. So I would like to try to do that last motion on Article 21, and then we'll adjourn. I must tell you that I predicted in an earlier meeting with, I believe it was the board, that this article could engender more discussion than the $30 million school budget. It's to pay an old invoice for $2,760, and it's my opinion that usually what happens, we all understand $2,760, particularly if we get it on our credit card. And so this may engender a lot of discussion. If it does, we will stop the discussion and adjourn anyway. So it's moved and seconded that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $2,760 from free cash to pay a bill incurred in a prior fiscal year to Elco Landscaping and Tree Service of Winchester, Mass. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is a 4/5 vote required. Who is going to be the speaker on that? Mr. Kleckner. Be good.
I think I drew the short straw on this one. Well, let me first say that this odd requirement of a 4/5 vote is a requirement of state law. We're finding a lot about these arcane state laws, but in this case, when a bill or an expenditure of a community goes beyond the fiscal year in which it was incurred and it wasn't properly encumbered, then it does require the supermajority. This bill either didn't get billed or was somehow inadvertently not accounted for in time. Quite frankly, if it wasn't a Winchester company, I might just say that was the luck of the draw. But the fact that it is a Winchester company, I didn't want that company to bear the brunt of this error. So it's a fairly minor bill. We have verified that it was incurred for services rendered to the town. It's a contractor that we use, and we'd like to pay the bill. Thank you.
May we have a recommendation from the Finance Committee? If this is your first no tonight, this is going to be trouble.
Actually, the Finance Committee actually recommends favorable action on this invoice.
All right. Further on the question. All those in favor of appropriating the amount $2,760 from free cash to pay this delayed bill, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries by obviously more than a 4/5. It was unanimous. Ladies and gentlemen, it's moved and seconded that this town meeting be adjourned until the 4th of June. The 4th of June. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries.
All right. And in a remarkably short session, remarkably short town meeting, we see that the town meeting has adjourned now until June 4th for only one substantial remaining article. So let's recap what has happened tonight briefly. For Articles 5, 6, 7, and 8 were all to establish enterprise funds for solid waste disposal, transfer station, and the Recreation Department were all indefinitely postponed. Hearing again from the town manager that these were accounting changes that he would like to make, but he said there was too much confusion, he'd like to resubmit them next year. Then we moved on to Article 9, which was the budget. Starting out with two preliminary motions for $2 million to the Building Stabilization Fund and $900,000 to the Capital Improvement Stabilization Fund, both established by a act of a override several years ago. The Finance Committee said that in their introductory remarks said the town must generate long-term plans. The Finance Committee does not use stabilization funds in this budget, and they also commended the efforts to reduce energy use by various town departments. Said the energy reduction was in the vicinity of 5% from last year. We heard about a couple of transfers of personnel funds from the town clerk's office and the town manager's office to the treasurer's office in the vicinity of $11,000. All of the budgets were passed unanimously. Went down to a $30 million school department budget. We heard from Sarah Swiger, the newly elected chairman of the school committee, who said that since 1993, 1,200 more students were enrolled in Winchester schools. 107 more were coming in 2008 alone. She detailed the school budget process. We also heard from Superintendent James Marini, who thanked the community for his override and said that most classes, however, are over the minimums in number of students. We heard some comments from Mel Kleckner, town manager, on health insurance. There was some discussion about the contributions of town employees and that the town is trying to consolidate health insurance providers. Peter Haley from the Board of Selectmen said the contribution rate for town employees ranges from 15% to 29%. And he said that is higher than in many other towns. And that is to cover about 1,000 current employees and retirees under health insurance. After passing that, there was a comment from Moderator Sullivan who said that the town, in his experience with traveling around the state during the gubernatorial campaign last year, said that the town needs to join the state health insurance system to get the economies of scale. He said, however, the legislation by the state requires that all town unions agree to jointly negotiate one health insurance contract. And in his opinion, that was the only way for the town to go. After recess, we heard some remarks from Helen Filio from the Capital Planning Committee. And all of those capital planning items were passed again by unanimous vote. So basically, every single budget item, there were 41 budget items, budget motions, and up through 56 also included the capital budget, all passed by unanimous vote. Article 10 was an appropriation of $350,000 for energy conservation projects, and that was transferred from a surplus in the energy budget. We heard from George Wood, who said that energy use in the town's buildings is down 14% due to a group effort. And he gave some details of the projects that are concentrated right now in 3 schools, Lynch, McCall, and Morocco, and those will be, there'll be some work done in those schools over the summer to further reduce energy costs. That was, excuse me, that was passed. Article 11, $156,600 appropriation for professional services for engineering and costs for accommodating short-term growth in the schools. We heard from Bob Deering from the EFPTC, who said that there may be no space left in the schools in September 2008 to accommodate the growing enrollments. He said the town is waiting for state programs to assist in school buildings to come back after June 30th. He said right now there were currently 1,888 currently enrolled students in the town's elementary schools. But the problem is the town is not really sure where the enrollment is going. They are doing several different computer models to suggest, but they differ, and he detailed some of the differences between those different models. More stable is the 1,300 schools in the McCall Middle School because they have come up through the elementary school, so they're a little bit more predictable than using birth rates. And he said the town is looking at adding 12 classrooms to McCall. Again, this $156,000 was an appropriation to do studies, to find out, do some planning on where the town is going in the school master plan. That was passed. Article 12, to allow the town to use state highway funds, housekeeping article was passed. Article 13, the water and sewer budget, which is an enterprise budget of $5.1 million, was passed. Again, those funds do not come out of the general town budget. They come from the charges for water and sewer charges. He said, we heard that the head count in the water and sewer department has gone from 20 to 18. Article 14, the personnel report, was postponed. As you may have just heard, that's going to be postponed until town meeting reconvenes on June 4th to give time for the results of some collective bargaining. Articles 15, 16, 17 were all revolving, just to reauthorize revolving accounts for the Recreation Department, the transfer station recyclables, and the Board of Health Services. All were passed, as was an appropriation of $15,000 for the Board of Health, an annual appropriation for a hazardous waste disposal. That was Article 18. Article 19, the proposal to sell the Hamilton Farm, was indefinitely postponed because that will be the subject of a special town meeting on June 7th. We did hear from Tom Howley, chairman from the Board of Selectmen, who said that last Friday was the deadline for revised proposals on the farm. Those proposals have been posted on the town's website, winchester.us, and he said on May 21st there'll be another community information session on those proposals. So that was indefinitely postponed. Article 20 was also indefinitely postponed to transfer supplemental funds for the budget. The town manager was not sure if there'd be any need for transfers, but he said he will come back in June at the special town meeting if they are needed. And the last article tonight, Article 21, was to pay an old bill to Elco Landscaping of Winchester of $2,700, 4/5 vote required. That was passed. And that was it, basically a night of budgets. And the town meeting has been left with essentially one article left to discuss, and that is the appropriation here, the report of the Personnel Board, and make adjustments by their recommendations. But that has to wait until there are some collective bargaining issues resolved. So Because of that one article and Articles 24, 25, and 26, which are housekeeping articles, it was suggested and the town meeting approved adjourning this spring town meeting for one more session on June 4th, which is concurrent with a special town meeting. So that's where we stand right now, almost all done with Winchester Spring Town Meeting in a remarkable 2 sessions. So we will have our coverage will of course resume back on June 4th, and we invite you to come back. Then we also invite you to stay tuned to WinCam for the informational sessions and further information on the Hamilton Farm situation, Hamilton Farm purchased by the town. So for all of us here at WinCam, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Alan Iden. Good night.